Welcome to Swolehammer. With the new Slaves to Darkness battletome finally here, we can see all the new war scrolls and what it has to offer. And thankfully, a lot of the Warcry warbands have been updated in huge ways for some of them. So I wanted to go ahead and rank all the Warcry specific warbands for AOS and see how they stack up, especially against the new battletome. This isn't a deep dive for each war scroll or a review, but more so just giving you the general idea of what is new or what these warbands bring in Age of Sigmar to the table. So starting with the unfortunate whatever ranks, we have Dark Oath Savagers, Horns of Hashut, and Tarantulos Brood. I'm grouping these all together because they're unchanged in the new Slaves to Darkness battletome and still just don't really impress. If you like the models, play them, it's fine, but they don't really do much. Now on to what I call the glow up ranks, where these models used to be kind of whatever, but now they have some sort of additions that make them kind of interesting. Starting off, we have the Cypher Lords. So the Cypher Lords can maneuver as if they had fly over enemy models, have a kind of low chance of pile-in mortals, and a 4-up nearby unit -1 to hit. These are all kind of okay, but it's good to see that the Cypher Lords got a little more utility. Now onto one of my favorite warbands, and the second models I ever painted, the Scions of the Flame. Now the Immolator can now do mortal wounds on a nearby unit at the end of the combat phase, which is cool, but the real reason that you would take the Scions of the Flame now is that their Flame Burst pots now triple the number of hits if they hit at range to a Hordy unit. While this won't break the game in any way, it is nice to see my flamey boys get a boost for once, and really actually become a threat to some of those weaker chaff units. Clan rats and such will just get shredded by this. Even if the attack profile isn't super great, tripling your hits can really stack up against an opponent. As we always say, volume of attacks are very important in any of these war games. Now onto what I call the dank oath ranks. And these are just good models. You probably could apply them to most of your armies or lists and not be too hurt about it. Starting with the other side of the Catacombs box, the Khainite Shadowstalkers. While they are expensive, the most expensive unit on this list actually, for 150 points, they have a 4-up save, which is cool. And they also have great utility with a functioning kind of deep strike and can be battle line in Daughters of Cain. I think the only thing that really stops the Khainite Shadowstalkers from being higher on this list is because they are a bit more expensive, and the Daughters of Cain book is super competitive with their units already, leaving the Shadowstalkers in kind of an odd spot. And not in an odd spot are the Rotmire Creed, who have proved to be one of my favorite when it comes to AOS rules from Warcry. They're the second cheapest battle line in Nurgle, and the cheapest for the Mortals side. A bunch of wounds with the faction-wide 5-up ward. They make very hard to shift off of objectives, and 20 attacks at range and melee are great for giving disease points to your opponents. Sure, the attacks aren't high value, but when you get those 6s, you're building up the disease points, as Nurgle should. Even more so, they can spread disease, and this just for 125 points is quite frankly awesome. Now rounding out the dank oath ranks are the Spire Tyrants. And thankfully, they've gotten quite a boost. Adding 1 to your tax characteristic when you're within 9 of a mortal hero in Slaves of Darkness gives them 30 attacks, which is awesome. And they don't take battle shock if they're near enemy units, which they want to be near enemy units. And ultimately nullifies one of the biggest weaknesses with these warbands is that a lot of them have low bravery. Back to the attacks though, if you're using Mark of Khorne with the new way the marks work, you could get 40 attacks in one sequence if these guys charged, which is also very, very nutty. And on to what I consider the top ranks, the ever-chosen ranks. Now these are really good warbands that either have already seen play and are still good, or will be new ones to the roster. Now let's start off, we were talking about 40 attacks, let's talk about the Splintered Fang. So in my opinion, Splintered Fang were already kind of borderline okay, like people really slept on them. But now they have 30 attacks baseline with mortal wounds on 6s, which is absolutely insane. And as I said before, you Mark of Khorne them, they charge, that's 40 attacks with mortal wounds on 6s. Quite frankly, I'm surprised this wasn't a day one errata. Like, a few of my friends and I thought this was a typo, but if not, this is completely awesome, and they tentatively stay in the ever-chosen ranks as of now. Another warband I'm glad to see higher up on this list are the Unmade. I love the models, very depraved and deranged, but they get the ability to deny enemies to redeploy or rally within 12 of them, which is a huge bubble. And again, a lot of these Warcry warbands, especially in Slaves of Darkness, are 100 points or under. I'm pretty sure all of them are, except one, which I'll mention later. Giving you an extremely cheap way to just harass your opponent's game plan can be backbreaking, and I absolutely will use these models in my Slaves of Darkness lists. The next we have Iron Golems and Untamed Beasts. I grouped them up because they already saw play before the new battletome, and they only got better, so I still like them a lot. The Iron Golems are crazy cheap ways to get 3-up saves if they haven't moved that turn. This is a little less useful since a lot of things got 3-up saves in the new book, but like I said, they are very cheap, and why not use them if you're not going heavy on those Chaos Warriors or Knights. Then we have the Untamed Beasts, who retained their pregame move and got some minor attack buffs, which they're already good. Pregame moves are good, and as I said, I think they got a points increase, but it doesn't matter. You'd still probably use them. Also in the ever-chosen ranks, we have Corvus Cabal, which I'm so happy to see. Some of the coolest models that a lot of people build when they get into Warcry just never get used. Or if they do get used, they're unfortunately not very good in Warcry or AOS. Now, they have a lot of utility because they gain Deep Strike. And one of the reasons why they beat the K-Knight Shadowstalkers from before is because they have the Deep Strike, yes, but Corvus Cabal are also only 80 points and are always battle line. Extremely cheap, great utility. Love to see it. And last on our list, and probably my favorites, are the Chaos Legionnaires, Bellacor's Chosen. And aptly so, they gain +1 to wound when near Be'lakor. They also have abilities to shut off commands on a 4-up, and also they have Rend baseline for the whole unit, which is super rare for Warcry warbands, except for the leaders. This is just through the whole unit. On top of all that, they remained 110 points in the new battletome, which is crazy. I am a huge fan of these models, maybe a little too much, because some of these might be better to you, some of them may not be. I do think the Chaos Legionnaires probably take the top spot here just because they're at worst still good. If they're not getting their utility off, they're still just a beefy unit. So that's it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Slaves of Darkness Battletome is the real place where you want to play these Warcry warbands. They seem really solid overall in the new Slaves of Darkness Battletome, and they just have so much utility. I went out and bought a crap ton of them just so I could have in my Ravagers list that I'll work to eventually. But whether you agree or disagree on these rankings, let me know in the comments. As always, this is Rafiq with Swolehammer. Stay swole.